fracking, it would start producing a reasonable amount of gas maybe in 5 to 10 years, and it wouldn't take a penny off the price of gas. So it has absolutely nothing to do with the current situation that we're facing. Britain is part of the global market for gas. So if we produce more gas in the UK, it is sold on the global market. This winter, 50% of the gas produced in UK was actually exported because the price was higher. So actually, the idea that we actually go down the route of fracking rather than insulation, energy efficiency and renewables is actually the wrong way to go and plays into Putin. Let's face it, since 1973, we have had warning that our addiction to oil will fuel dictatorships, will fuel climate change, and will fuel high bills for customers. We've had 50 years to tackle this and we failed. So what we should do now is ramp up insulation for people so they're not paying huge bills, ramp up renewables because they're a quarter of the price of gas at the moment per kilowatt of electricity, and ramp up storage. That is the right way for Britain. It's the patriotic thing to do. And anybody who advocates going down the route of fossil fuels is actually betraying Britain in the light of the IPCC report that came out this week that we're facing horrific impacts for Britain and the wider world within 20 years.
Lois Perry, is it time to start fracking?
Absolutely. Well, America hasn't had any of these problems. Their energy costs are actually a sixth for the average household compared to ours. And, I think he must know that everything that he just said is absolute nonsense. I mean, if we start fracking, we can get the wells going very, very, very quickly, not 5 to 10 years. And we can be energy independent extremely quickly. We can do it at a cost plus setting so that we have domestic low energy prices, and then we can export the gas and make a profit elsewhere. There's lots of ways around it. It's absolutely essential that we're energy independent. And, the IPCC report, really? Come on. Does anyone take any notice of that absolute nonsense? It's completely fabricated, most of it.
Rupert Lowe, what's your view about Britain's energy future?
Well, my view is obviously we should work towards increasing the amount of energy that we produce from renewables. And I'm involved in battery storage businesses, and I'm also involved in heat pump businesses. We're trying to design a more efficient heat pump. And these are things that we should be doing. But for us not to be using a relatively clean source of natural gas, which is there and available for us on multiple sites, not least, as you just outlined, the Trough of Poland, where we've got enough natural gas to supply us for the next 50 years. I think the logical thing, and again, we've seen a lack of logic over the COVID 2-year sort of aberration, and I think this is completely illogical. And we heard the first speaker. I've never heard so much drivel in my life, but at the end of the day, what we need to do is we need to frack. We need to use that gas to transition to cleaner energy. If I tell you that on battery storage, as an example, we are wasting large quantities of energy that's produced overnight by our offshore wind farms because there is no battery storage to collect that and to match the generation with usage. So there's a lot that needs to be done to actually improve what we're doing. But meanwhile, to be at the beck and call of Mr. Putin or anybody else, and we are to much less extent in his if you like, hold than Europe has since they've abandoned a lot of nuclear energy. So I would advise everybody to read an article Boris wrote entitled "Ignore Doommongers, Britain Should Get Fracking," which he wrote in 2012. And before he was influenced by Carrie. I think we're not very careful with food prices shooting up as well. I doubt that Boris, Carrie or indeed Zach Goldsmith are going to face a decision as to whether they heat or whether they eat. So I think logic would suggest we need to get fracking right now. And I've been saying that for some time. And I hope that common sense will increasingly permeate through our leaders and we'll see some action to cap off our...